In this video, we are talking the possibility, some possible, and I highlight possible evidence that Peoplemover might be returning. We're also going to talk about the D23 EXPO going live. We have a lot to discuss today. Up next. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. I brought my brother, my colleague, my producer, VashSky, host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on OG55. Dre, welcome back, brother. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm really excited to be back. You cannot not be excited with that music, by the way. It gets me hyped every single time, so I love it. I love it. I do appreciate that. Well, hey, if you guys want to see me, or I should say, if you guys want to, tweet at me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at VashSky on Twitter right there for, well, as Christine Wastelines McCarthy would say,
for all the robust
discussion right there, you can go ahead and do so. Just type that in. And if you want to see me, well, you can go ahead and do so right on the channel you're watching right now. Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice, news, and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
But really, nothing compares with a freshly squeezed.
Love that drop.
Love it, love it, love it. Let's get the party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to all who come to this happy place,
welcome to Orange Grove 55.
I love that one even more.
Yeah, it's hard. That's aggressive. That's aggressive. I love it. I
like it. I like it.
It's a good one. So let's talk a little Peoplemover. I mean, this has kind of been like, it's weird, Dre. It's kind of like been kind of percolating. It's not, and there's nothing official. It's kind of like rumor and a lot of chatter, a lot of pretty, reliable sources have been kind of talking about like, hey, look, the Peoplemover might be coming back. There's kind of talks behind the scenes, and something came to light the other day that might be kind of pointing in that direction. I'm going to go ahead and share your screen.
Yes. And want to go ahead and give credit to Fresh Baked for this. We shouted him out on the last show right there. Love their work, love their reporting. And he was able to get shots of before and after. And what you're seeing right here for the folks at home is the before of what we're talking about here. You can see here that there is a Peoplemover track swooping out of the Carousel of Progress building, Innovations building, right, as it makes its way over Autopia. And you can note here that the tree... next to it is very overgrown. And by the way, folks, it has been this way for what I want to say. I mean, what did you say, OG? Like what, decades? I mean, it's been there for a number of years.
A long time, and you can tell by the growth. This is not something that is just a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. I mean, the tree is pretty overgrown. It's kind of like completely engulfed the track at this point, so it's been a while.
And to be fair, I mean, why wouldn't it have? I mean, the Peoplemover or the rocket rods have been out of commission since what, September of 2000, I believe. So it's been a while. Well, most recently, out of all the very interesting years to do this, by the way, and we'll get to that, we see this in this state right here. Completely trimmed back, as you can see.
That interesting.
Very interesting. I don't know. I mean, look, we've been seeing movement in this space ever since we started hearing the words Peoplemover percolate from the rumor mill, right? I mean, I think we have been seeing stuff like this. Maybe not as profound as this, but I believe on July 17th, I was trying to find it on Twitter, couldn't find it, but... And if I do find it, folks, I'll go ahead and retweet it on my Twitter account, maybe even provide a link in the description for OG. But it's very strange because on July 17th, just this past recent anniversary, we had executives on the Peoplemover loading platform.
Right.
Again, it's just very kind of strange things where we're getting kind of momentum towards maybe possibly a Peoplemover comeback. It's very strange. OG, what is your take on this? Is this all kind of hot air? Is this what is this?
I've said it many times on the channel. I'll say it again because not everyone watches every video, but too many coincidences are not a coincidence. I mean, we're seeing a lot of rumors from big sites like WDWNT. I think even Mice Chat at one point was pretty bullish on this Peoplemover thing. And then now we're starting to see like Disney sort of like, kind of maintain some of the trees and the foliage around the Peoplemover track. There's a lot of smoke, you guys. There's a lot of smoke here. Is there fire? I don't know. Certainly seems like it, though. It certainly seems like it. Now, look, this doesn't necessarily mean, I guess, the return of the Peoplemover, because they might just be removing the trees to remove the track, because we've heard that the track over Autopia, Subs, and Motorboat might be getting removed. And maybe they're getting removed for some Fantasyland expansion like Frozen or what have you. There's a lot of evidence towards that as well. So the kind of the cutback on the tree might just be prepping for removal of the track. Might not even be for a Peoplemover return. It might be both. It might be a truncated version of the Peoplemover. We just don't know. But I do think it's a little odd that out of the freaking blue, they decide, oh, maybe we should cut back the tree that blocks the Peoplemover track. I mean, okay, yeah, it's only been 20 years. Yeah, do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird.
It's a little weird. And look, listen, you might be right. It might be for the removal of this track. It also might be for the removal and replacement of this track. Yeah, see, the quandary thickens. Look, listen, you saw the overgrowth on this tree. It had been there for years. And all of a sudden, right on the eve of the D23 EXPO, right when all of this kind of fervor, or I should say smoke, generating for a Tomorrowland redo and a Peoplemover, comeback, we see this. I think there's a lot of smoke here, and there's got to be some fire. There's got to be something motivating this kind of stuff, whether it be executives on the Peoplemover track, or I should say on the Peoplemover loading platform, which is kind of weird because we've seen people on the Peoplemover track at various times set up, lighting across the track, right? I think they use it for, sound as well, right? They use it for the banners. We've seen that kind of stuff before. But we've never really seen from the loading station itself. We've never really seen what you're seeing on screen right now. It's all very, very strange. I don't quite know what it means. But where there's this much smoke, there's usually fire.
There's something going on. There's something going on, whether it's the Peoplemover proper or whether it's some sort of adjustment to make way for some other unrelated attraction like Frozen. I don't know what it is, but there's too much talk, there's too much rumor, there's even too much physical evidence like this kind of pointing in that direction for there to be absolutely nothing. Now, if we get to the D23 EXPO, and we're going to talk about D23 EXPO in a little bit, if we get to the D23 EXPO and we don't get this stuff, I'd be shocked. I would be very surprised. Look, I don't want to get people's hopes up. I don't want to get your hopes up. I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, we're getting it. Yeah, for sure. I don't know that. I don't really know that. But I feel like there's enough evidence, though, that kind of points in that direction that it's at least a possibility. It's at least a possibility. And I'm pretty hyped. I'm actually pretty hyped. I'm actually pretty excited about this expo, to be honest with you, because I think this is the year, Disneylanders, this is the year that we rise up and we actually get some awesome announcements, and I think that this is the chance that we have to actually kind of, and look, usually it's the Walt Disney World show. I think this year might be different. Might be. Cautiously optimistic. We'll see.
Well, speaking of everything, D23 EXPO. It's interesting you mentioned that because it's not only what will be actually, shown that might have everybody's, interest for sure, but it might be where you actually see those updates from. I think that goes into our kind of next story right here. And, hey, look, listen, D23 EXPO Live, we had kind of said, hey, wouldn't it be great if the D23 Expo did live stream these panels. Now, we were kind of saying in the context of Disney Plus, which doesn't look like it's necessarily going to happen. Looks like it's going to be on their available platforms, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. But it looks like we're going to be getting some of these panels actually live streamed for the consumers who can't necessarily, be there in person for these events. And what is it that includes the Disney Parks panel itself? OG, what do you feel?
I think it's exciting. Look, we're parks people. I'm a park person. You're a park person. Our audience are mostly park people. I'm excited to get this stuff live. I remember getting the Parks panel live in previous years because I remember in 2017 when my heart kind of sunk into my pinky toe when John Lasseter on stage said that we're getting Pixar up here, and I'm like, what? Like, oh God, why? I remember that moment very vividly. I was like, oh God, that's weird. Okay. But yes, we have gotten these park panels live before. I enjoy that. I like the anticipation. I like watching this stuff live. I think some of the more mainstream panels, like the studio panel and what have you, they're not going live. A lot of stuff is a little more secret. Lucasfilm, Marvel, things like that. I think they just want to keep that a little bit more under wraps. They're probably going to show footage of various content that they don't want to really release to the public and have it pirated out. So I get that. But the parks panel for like what us and the majority of our audience are into, that's going to be live, y'all. And look, to be honest with you, I agree. I think that I like the live aspect, but I think it's a missed opportunity for Disney Plus to kind of dip into Disney Plus Live. I know they're doing Dancing with the Stars live, right, on the platform soon, or I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that franchise, but they can do this kind of stuff. And I think live TV and things like this would be a huge boon for the platform. You would get a ton of subscribers, Disney Plus, if you were to do this live on D Plus. I don't know why they don't. I really don't, but it's going to be on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and a bunch of other social media platforms, everything basically except Disney Plus. But,
yeah, I it's a little frustrating that they didn't actually leverage the kind of Disney Plus live stream infrastructure, the brand. It would have been a nice kind of synergy in that aspect. Maybe there would be exclusive live streams on Disney Plus, whereas the bigger panels, maybe you get it on these other platforms and something like that. Something to kind of leverage this kind of Disney Plus DTC service, we've seen that they can do live streaming. I believe the Harmonious live event right there, I think that was done pretty successfully, right? Given everything. They can do it. They have the absolute capability. It's kind of a shame that they don't. I do. The only thing that bums me out about this is the fact that, oh man, if our situation was different, OG, and I wasn't necessarily traveling at the time that the Disney Parks panel was actually taking place, I would have loved to have live streamed it, and kind of do a simulcast of it. I think that would have been kind of cool, right, for the channel. But we because they're live streaming this, and it looks like the recordings will actually be preserved on these various platforms, we can actually react to it in a subsequent show, following these events, and actually Absolutely. Kind of examine the clips and so forth, examine the words. I think it'll be a lot of fun for future shows on the channel, and I'm excited that they're doing this at all. So good for D23 recognizing that there's a lot of demand for these things. I understand they want to keep some things special. They want to keep some things kind of exclusive to participants, and that's great. But some of these panels, like the Parks panel, good job on them for sharing those out.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. And I gotta be honest with you. I'll be watching this live stream and I'll be pretty nervous because I see, this is the thing. Damn you, Disney. Because a year ago, I was not expecting much from the D23 Expo in regards to Disneyland Resort. I just wasn't. Like I said many times on this channel, it's usually the Walt Disney World show. With all these rumors, like the Peoplemover rumors and Tomorrowland rumors and this, that, and the other, I'm like, oh man, I kind of got a little bit like, Oh, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah.
Like we actually have a chance of like actually getting some cool stuff here.
Yeah.
So I'm a little nervous. I gotta be honest with you, because like I said many times, I've been stood up at the altar many times for the D23 Expo, and even like Star Wars Celebration and stuff like that. Very rarely, for me personally, does Disney come through and actually deliver at these conventions. So I really hope this D23 we get some really great stuff for the expo. Now, I will say this. I actually sent a super chat to our friend over at Fresh Baked, Dave, last night. He did a live show. He does live shows every Thursday, right?
Sure.
And I sent him a super chat, which and his response was actually very interesting, and it ties to D23. And that's why I want to bring it up.
Cool.
But I asked him, given the FBI criminal probe of Harry Sadu, the mayor of Anaheim, and all that like kind of drama going on with the city of Anaheim, what do you think the chances of Disneyland Forward kind of moving forward? Like what are the chances of this kind of happening? And I think Dave had a very, very interesting point, and it's kind of not too far off from what we've been saying. But he said basically, Disneyland Forward was always a 20, 30 plus year plan. So if they announce it this year or 5 years from now, what does it matter? He kind of has a point. Now, as a selfish Disneylander, I absolutely want them to approve it right now, and I want them to announce it at this expo.
Right. With full concept art, full blueprints, full models.
Full-blown Westcott, Third Park, People Movers, crisscrossing Harbor Boulevard, the whole 9 yards. Is it going to happen? Absolutely not. Just kidding.
I'm about to say, I was like, well.
But I do dream. I do dream. But I would like to see some, and all kidding aside, I would love to see some acknowledgement of Disneyland Forward. Disney, you threw it out there and you kind of teased us. And this FBI thing I understand, kind of gummed up the works. But man, I would love to hear something. Even if you say we have to scale back, just be honest. Have the candor to say, like, we got to scale back because of the Harry Sadu thing. I get it. But just give us some sort of update on that. I would love to see that at Expo. I don't know if it'll happen, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's like you said, though, it's the disappointment, right? Because I was content even a couple of months ago. At D23 EXPO, probably not going to have much. Probably just going to have a bunch of updates on projects we've already heard. Maybe some small stuff like the Main Street Theater on Magic Kingdom. I was okay with coasting by this expo because I kind of knew that Disney wasn't in, let's say, the most solvent position, right? They had some liquidity issues, as Chapek points out. They have some, some issues behind the scenes that could have, otherwise being maybe they would have done something, but as it stands right now, okay, whatever. But now that we've heard all these kind of rumors and stuff like that, hey, I got to be honest with the viewers at home. I'm excited for them, and it's that kind of disappointment that I think is the fear, right? It's just like, because we have been stood up at the altar, and look, I want the world for Disneyland, like you said. I mean, Disneyland Forward, if they at least give us an update, that'd be great. I doubt it. And the other thing too, downtown Disney. I mean, what's going on with that? Where's the progress on that? I understand,
right.
Concrete, might play a factor in that kind of whole thing, and hey, maybe the FBI probe itself had an impact on what was going down in there. I'm not quite sure, but can we at least get an update on that at least? There are some things that I think we're looking for at the expo. I think it's important for everybody to kind of remember cautious optimism, right? It's look at these things. You can look at these things with anticipation, but kind of keep that in check because, like you've said before, we've been stood up at the altar before. I would hate for people to be disappointed about it. I think it'll be a fun expo either way, and we'll definitely be talking about it post Joe. But it's just manage your expectations, folks. All I'm saying.
No, 100%. 100%. With these expos, these conventions, always manage your expectations. For me personally, very few of them ever really deliver.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what will become of this expo. I have high hopes because look, Walt Disney World is kind of coming off of their 50th. They just got a huge influx of cash. You know, it's kind of Disneyland's time to shine now, right? Like, okay, you know, I'm kind of expecting. And now we got the rumors of like Peoplemover and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, oh man, this is Disneyland's time to shine. But look, like you said, you know, we've been stood up before, so I don't want to get too hyped over it. But let's get hyped.
Let's get hyped. Well, we can get hyped for something coming to Disneyland. I guess, MiceJet had this. The Silhouette Studio is back. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? It's no Peoplemover, but it's something. No, look. I think the reason why I kind of wanted to throw this in here real fast is because I think it's representative that that various areas of the resort are coming back. That there are kind of overcoming some of the labor issues and so forth, and they're slowly coming back on, and hopefully the D23 EXPO will be a culmination of all those efforts, right? In not only bringing stuff back, but also giving us new stuff. I hope that's the case. It's good to see these kind of little stories like the Silhouette Studio, or even like the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, these kind of things coming back because I think they signal maybe greater things down the line. So it's good to see the resort be restored, let's say. But I think we should maybe move on here from the Disneyland Resort and maybe get into some maybe entertainment news.
Absolutely. But real quick, I do want to touch upon this a little bit with the Silhouette, because I think it's a small story, but it kind of does amount to a bigger story. And we've heard a lot about like Chapek and even tomorrow now, Daddy Josh, Yep. They're really cheap, right? They're looking to cut every corner they can cut. And we've seen now, like Chapek has had every excuse to not bring some of these things back. Right. Like my personal favorite, the red car trolley. He had every excuse in the world to not bring that back after the pandemic. Every excuse. He could just quietly discontinue that trolley. And really, aside from me and you, and like I think George, not too many people were that mad about it. They were fine with the red car not being here. I didn't hear a whole lot of outrage about it. So they could have done it and it would have been kind of under the radar, right? But they still brought it back. Things like the Silhouette Studio. Again, a very small thing that not a lot of fans even really pay attention to. Was anyone really that mad on social media, on Diz Twitter, that the Silhouette Studio wasn't around? I didn't hear anything. Nada.
Right.
And yet Daddy Josh and Chapek brought it back. These are things that they cost money to do. They're paying a cast member to sit there all day long to maybe do 4 or 5 silhouettes a day.
Yeah.
We got to give them credit, honestly, at least for doing this stuff, bringing some back. I am very surprised. I got to be honest with you. I'm very surprised at the amount of these little touches that are coming back to the resort. I'm really shocked. I really thought a lot of stuff would die a dog's death, as Dre says. Because there's no huge demand for them, and they're all coming back. I'm shocked.
Well, and I will say, a lot of people weren't mad necessarily that the Silhouette Studio wasn't coming back, but a lot of people were kind of looking forward to it, because I think a lot of people kind of realize, at least in our kind of space, right, that these things are kind of meaningful. Now, the red car trolley, that was very interesting. I enjoyed everybody tweeting at you, saying, hey, look, listen, the red car trolley is coming back. Because I think your love and passion for it is famous at this point. That is absolutely fantastic. That's absolutely great. But like you said, like a lot of people weren't gung ho to get it back, and not to say that they didn't want it back. It's just that there's not that it's one of those things, right? It's a small thing, but it's a big thing. And I will say, I will give Daddy Josh, or Josh Unfavorable tomorrow, right? I will go ahead and give him Camp Hot Rock and Jeff, Wally at Walt Disney World, because they just had their Barber on Main Street come back, right? These kind of little small things. We'll give the credit Chapek as well. I'll give them credit for bringing these things back and really kind of committing to these kind of smaller elements. And it does give me hope that they're committing not just to these smaller elements, these kind of skill positions, really, in some cases, but also to bigger elements like, hey, maybe the Hyperion show. And hey, if we got that announcement at D23 EXPO, I'd be excited about that too.
100%. Now, next story, I'll let you go ahead and lead with that one, sir. I do apologize. I just wanted to add that little bit.
No, you're fine. I forgot that you didn't provide commentary on that, so that was perfect. OG, don't even worry about it. Now, interesting news here, and it's kind of Disney related, obviously, as you can see in the title. DC's Kevin Feige found. Producer Dan Lin is in talks to take control of film, TV for superhero arm. That is the kind of the DCEU within the now Warner Brothers Discovery kind of brand here, or entity, I should say. Because this is, look, it's not official, right? There's some talks going on, but because it's been leaked to the Hollywood Reporter, basically suggests kind of a done deal kind of thing there. Look, I'm gonna say this. I'm not convinced that this is necessarily the guy. Now, look, is he a better choice than Walter Hamada, who exists right there, or right now? I do believe that is the case, right? Now, I will give him credit for bringing James Gunn in the building. That was a smart, savvy move right there. Also, to I think Joker was, the most universally kind of well-received thing, right, that he had done. But even then, from what I understand, he wasn't a big fan of it and tried to actually can it. So that just tells you maybe Hamada's not the guy. And a lot of people predicted that he wasn't going to be the guy for very much longer. So this Dan Lin here, I look at his kind of resume. Lego movies, okay. I think the first one was really, really big.
Funny. The
second and the Batman Lego movies, I don't know, it kind of dropped off, but okay, fine, right? It, okay, pretty strong. Like I said, though, the sequel, maybe. Sherlock Holmes, big franchise, can't complain there, and you've already got Robert Downey Jr. and ties to that. Okay, I think Godzilla vs. Kong, part of it, right? And this brings us to why this story is very, very interesting. Aladdin. Now, Aladdin does make the connection to Alan Horn, right, who was also in-house, and apparently he was the guy that maybe was whispering in Zaslav's ear to go ahead and select this Dan Lin character. We'll go over some of his other kind of pieces of his resume, but OG, what are your kind of initial thoughts here? You like this? Don't like this? What's going through your head?
Well, number one out the gate, I would never underestimate Alan Horn. And if Alan Horn's saying Dan Lin's the guy, you can't dismiss that. Alan Horn is pretty fucking brilliant, to be honest with you. He's done amazing things both at Warner Brothers even before his time at Disney. And then at Disney, he was like legendary. Yeah. So if Alan Horn is if he's vouching for him, like the mob, right? I vouch for you, man. If he's vouching for this guy, then he definitely, I think this Dan Lin definitely has some chops to some degree, right? But the problem though here is I see a lot of people kind of like hanging on to like, well, he's produced a lot of great movies, therefore he's a great pick.
Right.
Not necessarily. Look, and I'm not trying to start like a whole thing because I know Star Wars is really divisive, but Kathleen Kennedy has an amazing resume as well. Mm-hmm. She's produced a lot of great movies as well, but she doesn't know really, in my opinion, how to manage a studio.
Yep.
So you can be a great quarterback, but does that necessarily translate to being a great coach?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. So this guy, Dan Lin, look, he has the resume and he's got Alan Horn vouching for him. He's got everything lined up for him. That doesn't mean he's going to be fucking awesome. Kennedy had all the same stuff aligned for her as well, and she didn't do that great, to be honest. So we just don't know. He could be fantastic. I'm not dismissing him out the gate. I'm just saying, just because the resume looks good, Horn vouches for him, doesn't necessarily mean, look, George Lucas vouched for Kathleen Kennedy. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's Lucas is the one who put Kennedy in the spot. It wasn't even Bob Iger.
I that one will always puzzle me. I'll always be puzzled. And from what I understand, George Lucas did that because I think he wanted somebody from his camp to be in his camp, making executive decisions about Star Wars going forward. That clearly did not materialize in the way that George Lucas may have thought it might have when making that selection. And look, I will agree with you. I mean, just because you have been a great producer on some films doesn't mean that you can necessarily helm a studio and really kind of move it into a direction, especially with characters and stories that are kind of interconnected that you kind of have to maintain over time, right? I think a lot of the kind of continued success and the continued draw towards the MCU is that they've been able to take these characters, cultivate them, have them mature, have their character arcs be maintained, and to the point where when these kind of characters do something that's a little bit maybe uncharacteristic for them, fans kind of they're surprised by it, right? And so we've kind of seen that Lin has an incredible resume. I'm not saying that he doesn't. But I think they were kind of, I think Zaslav and some others were kind of, they were more intrigued by the variety of his production work, and maybe not necessarily putting an enhanced emphasis on his work with superheroes or, the shepherding of these franchises and so forth in this kind of all connected universe, which I think is a very important aspect of it. And I think part of that is because, well, look at Kevin Feige. We have to, have somebody that matches his resume. That's not going to be, you're not going to find that person. So what's the second best? I think Zaslav and others, right? Maybe, like I said, put emphasis on the variety of his work, because I think they do want to have a DC presence on television, DTC, linear. Linear distribution, film, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, let's get a guy that has kind of dabbled in all of these worlds, right? And he has. But I don't know. I mean, even in that kind of field, right? I guess he did work on the Lethal Weapon show, which had a lot of drama behind the scenes. So it's like, that's kind of questionable. He did Terminator Salvation. I mean, that's not a high point right there, but that's a big franchise, Gangster Squad, some other films. Like I said, I'm not convinced. I would have liked to have seen a guy, because Kevin Feige, to me, what set him apart, right, when they selected him for the MCU role and so forth, well, I mean, obviously he was a package deal with Marvel, but they empowered him, and one of the reasons why they did was because he knew character, he knew these stories, he knew these kind of films, he knew the audience, right, he knew all those things, but he had a really great grasp on the material, and I think he positioned himself well based on his prior work with former Marvel films that he wasn't necessarily, I mean, he took a producership role in, but didn't necessarily have full control over, kind of knowing what worked, what didn't work, and all those kind of things. This Stan Lin, I think, lacks a lot of that. Yeah. So I'm just, I looking at this, I'm kind of, unconvinced. Just looking at it. I will say, though, very interesting point in this Hollywood Reporter article, it suggests that there's going to be a structure change too, where he'll kind of have his own kind of division. So aside from the other kind of the TV side of things, movie side of things, going to have his own kind of division, right? And he's going to maybe address Zaslav with no middleman in order to do so. And that structure very much was very similar to what Alan Horn and Bob Iger arranged for Kevin Feige to kind of get rid of Ike Perlmutter, sideline him, and have Feige report direct to Bob Iger himself. Very interesting how Zaslav is looking to duplicate the success of the MCU in more ways than just one.
It is. But that only works so if Zaslav has the chops to know what's a good decision and what's not. So it kind of goes like even with Walt Disney, right? Like Walt Disney was a micromanager, like to the T.
Yes, absolutely.
Standing over the animators, he was micromanaging like crazy, but he was a fucking genius, so it worked.
Yes.
Does Zaslav have the chops? Bob Iger obviously did. Bob Iger obviously understood when Feige came to him, is this a good idea, bad idea, approve it, not approve it? Bob Iger had the sensibility to sort of know. Yes. Does Zaslav have that same intuition, that same kind of gut? I don't know. That's yet to be proven. So this model works, but you also have the right. You also have to have the right guy making the call, though.
Right. Well,
We don't know-
not just
Yeah.
on the top end, but on the other rung as well.
Right.
That move was made to empower Kevin Feige and to give him autonomy outside of like Promoter, right? That was what that whole thing was. Iger was putting a lot of trust into Kevin Feige in order to make those decisions because he trusted him, because he was the guy, as we have come to find out. But is Dan Lin the guy as well on the other side of that equation? That's the other thing too. You got to have
Right.
trust that he can do the job as well. Between Zaslav and Lin, unconvinced.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And there's been a lot of rumors lately that Feige's kind of on his way out with Marvel. One of my favorite content creators, Den of Nerds. I mentioned him yesterday in a video.
Yep.
But he made a speculation video recently about how it's possible if Feige leaves and goes to DC. Well, I think that kind of ship has sailed, to be honest with you. I mean, at least for the time being. They're announcing this guy, this Dan Lin. Feige's pretty much locked into Marvel now, at least for the foreseeable future. Because if Feige was going to leave Disney, DC would have been where he would have went. Yeah. And it looks like they're signing this guy. It's going to be at least a several-year contract. Disney has Feige for at least a few more years, assuming that he doesn't get fired or something like that. I mean, that's always something, a wild card, whatever. But in terms of like just assuming everything's going cool, Feige's safe at Disney, at least for a few more years.
I would say very likely, but I still don't know, man. I just because Kevin Feige himself doesn't have anywhere to go doesn't mean that he still is, he's still safe as far as how long Disney will have him be in house.
True.
See,
Peter Rice.
I mean, it's Peter Rice, right? There has been kind of talks, there's been some rumor circulating. That Park Place actually had an article about this most recently when talking about She-Hulk and some other things relating to the MCU, that some executives are kind of, maybe thinking like, hey, was Feige really the reason for all of the MCU's success? Is he maybe the reason why things have been kind of going a little bit downhill lately? Demand has kind of dropped off. Maybe we need somebody new in-house to kind of, spice things up, let's say. And maybe we move Kevin Feige over to, somewhere else within the studio, within Disney. Hey, maybe he can helm Lucasfilm. I don't know. But there has been that kind of talk lately. And it's kind of crazy to think about because you just think of the body of work that Feige has been a part of, an instrumental part of, right? I mean, the MCU is, it's the most successful franchise of all time.
It is.
Nothing even comes close. And the idea that guy might not be a part of it moving forward, or at least some executives might be thinking those things, maybe saying them between each other. That's a shocking thing, but I will give you credit. This definitely, what is it? It definitely quiets that kind of talk down, right?
Good way to
Because
put
I think
it.
the biggest fear was that Zaslav would just take him right underneath from JPEG, right?
Right.
But it doesn't make it completely go away. It's going to be fascinating to see how this goes down moving forward.
That's a great way to put it. It quiets it. It doesn't eliminate it, though. It's always possible. It's always possible. Remember the Peter Rice thing, and I know Peter Rice is nowhere close to the asset that Kevin Feige is, but to be fair, he got like that. Like it wasn't like it came out of left field, basically, right? And Feige could be the same way. And Chapek could decide, look, you know what have you done for us lately, Feige? I don't know, you done She-Hulk, this, that, and the other. Yeah, they're doing moderately okay, but it's not, the MCU of the past. You're not hitting the home runs you used to hit. So maybe I shouldn't, take you off the bench. Maybe it's time to kind of retire, buddy. We'll see. We'll absolutely see. Now, personally, in my opinion, I would not want to let Kevin Feige go. I think if he's not working for the MCU, I think you figure a way out to kind of keep him at Disney. I don't think you want the competition having him. That's just my opinion. But we'll see. Chapek and C-Suite over at Disney, they're more privy to the information and what's going on than I am, obviously. So if he's not working out and maybe he really wasn't the guy behind the magic and there's other things going on, okay, fine. And you let him go. We'll see. I don't know. It's fascinating, though. It's absolutely fascinating. We're going to keep an eye on this Zaslav, Dan Lin's story because I think it's very much in the early stages. It's interesting times, but you know what? I will say this. It's exciting times because Warner Brothers looks like they have a mover and a shaker over there running their studio now with Zaslav, who's doing big things. He's ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pissing off a lot of people, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes when you rock the boat, you might be doing something right. You might be doing something right. We just don't know yet. We don't know yet. So we'll see how this whole thing pans out. It's interesting though, how this whole thing is panning out. I'm really curious to see how Zaslav takes Warner Brothers going forward and this whole thing with Chapek, how he takes Disney going forward. Times are changing.
Times are changing. That is correct, and we'll have to see. I mean, we'll have to watch all these stories. I think you're right. They are very, very interesting, and to reflect that kind of changing times. Right? We just heard something very interesting come out of NBC recently. If you want to go ahead and you can share my screen right there.
I will. I actually have to get going, but Vash, if you can go ahead, you'll fly solo just for a little bit and talk about NBC, and we'll close out. I do appreciate you, brother, as always, and thank you all for watching. But continue to watch Mr. VashSky, host of the Freshly Squeezed Show here on OG55. He's going to break down some NBC. It's fascinating. Stay tuned. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, sir. I really do appreciate it. There you go. We'll go ahead and sign you off right there. Look, gotta love OJ, right? He is the best of hosts, the best of channels. Great stuff. I wanted to go ahead and bring this to your attention, though. This NBC could give third hour of nightly primetime back to local affiliates. Now, this is kind of a deal here because I think it kind of represents the kind of industry's move, at least in the TV space or the linear space, to kind of draw back from it a little bit. And I thought this was a great juxtaposition between NBC, what NBC is doing, and maybe what David Zaslav and the others are doing over there at Warner Brothers Discovery, because Warner Brothers Discovery, at least to hear them on their quarterly earnings calls recently, it's very interesting. There was an enhanced emphasis placed on linear distribution, right? They, and naturally so. I mean, David Zaslav, he's a TV guy. That's where he comes from. So he's got that kind of TV bias, right? That TV mindset that, there's still gas left in the tank. We can still, take this car on the road. It'll get to our destination. And hey, will it? Again, we'll have to see whether it does. I think a lot of people are kind of criticizing, Zaslav and Warner Brothers maybe a little bit too harshly. I understand he's done a lot of let's say unfavorable things, right? I think all of us can say that, me included. Like I said, I'd like to see, maybe some movement on the Ezra Miller thing, but that's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, he's done things that somebody likes out there, whether it be people within the industry, fans, that kind of thing. But again, this is kind of a new kind of venture for Discovery, right? This kind of new entity. We'll have to see what the fruits of all these changes are going forward. But we did hear from Zaslav and others during their last quarterly earnings call that there was going to be more emphasis placed on linear television, and now you see like NBC kind of pulling from that. So it's kind of a good juxtaposition of styles that I kind of wanted to bring to your attention. We have seen, by the way, too, Disney and ABC, right? They kind of pulled back a little bit. We've heard talk that maybe Disney kind of get out of the television game, maybe sell off, some of its, I think, stations or affiliates or whatever, just kind of, get out while these things might still be profitable, while people might still want to buy them. And it's a very surprising thing because, these have kind of been, and as far as revenue generators, they've meant big money for these companies, and yet we're seeing maybe a pullback on that as people kind of continue to cut the cord, and kind of rightfully so. I'm kind of one of those people who understand, right, the idea of maybe getting out of linear and maybe putting your efforts towards DTC and other kind of distribution channels. Maybe not all at once, but slowly. And so I think NBC here, I think they kind of see that that writing on the wall too. It's interesting. This kind of goes into a little bit. We're using the commitment to broadcast primetime hours would ease financial pressure on NBC Universal in terms of funding a linear lineup at a time when viewership and pay TV subscription levels continue to decline. That's very, very true. A lot of people have been cutting the cord lately, to reiterate to you. And so it's honestly, it's not too surprising. I mean, I was actually taken aback at Zaslav's comments because, I mean, what he indicated was a completely, I don't know, it seemed in opposition to the kind of changing mindset, regarding linear television and so forth. And so to see this, I mean, I think it's one of those things that kind of reflects the changing times, and it's why I'm bringing it up even in the first place, because I think you're going to see a lot of changes in this space and other spaces as we move on here. It's a fascinating thing. The other thing I wanted to go ahead and bring to your attention real fast here is they do put an emphasis on sports here. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah. Here we go. Live sports and non-scripted fare has begun dominating the grid, given the difficulty of launching and sustaining popular shows, chiefly based on their popularity on linear TV. And that's exactly what we've been seeing here, for sure. Reality television and so forth, I think, has been, I think it has the audience that kind of drives repeat viewership in the way that these executives want. But live sports, huge deal. In fact, we actually just had a conversation with Sean of Ranking the Mouse very, very recently. And after that show, we were talking about kind of live sports and so forth. And actually, I believe he may have actually referenced it on the show itself, where between baseball, football, and basketball, especially, basketball is kind of a growing enterprise for Disney and others, but it just brings in all kinds of ad revenue. And this article actually does go on to say that, they've been working out new contracts to have some of that move on to streaming itself. But I think you're going to see maybe these kind of these networks kind of lean into the live sports and these reality television shows, at least for the remaining future. I really don't see that changing, and by the time it does, maybe TV is going to be in a very different spot, and maybe the priority from these companies will shift regarding TV and specifically that ad revenue. Understand too that also goes, that also has connections to what Bob Chapek himself is trying to doing with the ad based tier of Disney Plus, right? I think maybe, some advertisers might be pulling their ads from TV, putting them on to some of these, ad-based subscription services. So that too might be a very interesting thing. It might be also why some of these TV networks are kind of maybe pulling their content off of these linear platforms. It's a very interesting time, folks. There's a lot of kind of moving parts here. It's it's taken all I had to keep up with it myself, but hopefully I can go ahead and do that with at least with the ability to relay that to you folks at home. So a very fascinating thing, very interesting times, and just something I wanted to go ahead and bring up. But I think that was it. I don't think there's anything else worth mentioning right off the bat here. let's see. Yeah. I think that'll about do it. I think that's a good show for y'all. So hey, I really do appreciate everybody for hanging out. Please, if you like the content here, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. It absolutely helps the channel. That is for sure. Go ahead and comment below. What do you think about all of this news? Hey, look, are we off base on the Peoplemover thing? I mean, be honest here, folks. Do you think this thing is coming back? Do you think there might be any, fire to the smoke that we've been hearing? We'd love to hear your comments regarding that and just about everything that we talked about here. So please go ahead and give it to us in the comments there. And share the video if you like it as well. That helps us immensely too. I know Theme Park Casual, Matthew Murr, some of our viewers have been doing amazing work on that front. I just want to go ahead and say thank you from the whole OG55 crew to you. I think that's phenomenal stuff. So anyway, my name is VashSky. You can go ahead and look me up on Twitter right down there at VashSky. For all the let's go ahead. I know Jay from Story Geeks loves it, so let's go ahead and give him a shout out here.
For all the robust
Discussion, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, you can go ahead and do so right down there at VashSky, just like it's spelled. And if you want to see me, well, it's coming on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Let's see here. Let's do the.
Thank you very much.
There you go. I think that's very appropriate. So, until next time, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll go ahead and have some great content for you real soon. Take care.